I'm going to tell the story that Deepa Kiran told to me.
Deepa Kiran.
It's the storyteller from India. And you can see if your ideas are the same or are they different. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Once upon a time, there was a young shepherd. He was poor. His name was Kumara, and he lived far away in the countryside where he looked after his sheep and he played on his flute. But on the other side of the land, in his palace, the king and his queen, they talked to their daughter, the princess. "It is time for you to get married." But she refused. "Father and mother, I am not ready to get married." "You must. I will only marry a man who can herd 100 rabbits for 1 month. Well, princes came, for she was beautiful. They wanted to marry her. And each of them would take 100 rabbits from the palace. But of course, the rabbits hopped off in many different directions. It was impossible. They went away again. So many men tried, but they all failed. But on the other side of the land, Kumara heard about this, and he decided that he would marry the princess. And he left the sheep with his brother, and he walked across the land with his flute. And he came to the palace, and he stood before the king and the queen, and he said, "I, Kumara, will marry your daughter, the princess. I will herd 100 rabbits for 1 month." "Impossible," said the king and the queen. "Look at you. You're poor. A shepherd wearing old rags of clothes. You cannot do this." "I will. I will marry your daughter. Give me the rabbits." Well, a promise was a promise. And the cage was opened and out hopped 100 rabbits. And Kumara, he put his flute to his lips and he began to play. And as he played, the rabbits hopped softly after him and followed him out of the palace and into the green countryside, down to a river. And there they hopped and he continued to play. And the 100 rabbits ate the grass and none of them ran away. And the animals that hunted rabbits, the foxes and the eagles, they circled overhead and watched, but none came close, for they were enchanted by the music that Kumara played on his flute. Now time passed, day after day, and he continued to herd the rabbits, and they all remained close to him. And the princess heard about this, and she went to see. And she saw this poor but handsome young man playing on his flute, and she was impressed. She brought water for him. She brought food for him. She looked after him, and she loved him. But when the king heard that his daughter was spending so much time with this poor shepherd boy, he was angry. So the king disguised himself as an old man. And he came to that place. And he stood before Kumara and he said, "Give me one of your rabbits, and I will give you a gold coin." Well, Kumara, he was clever, and he could see that this old man was really the king. But he did not say so. "Old man," said Kumara, "you can have one of my rabbits. You do not need to give me gold. I will give you 1 rabbit if you will massage my shoulders, if you will wash my feet." Well, the king thought, "I, a king, massage the shoulders of a shepherd boy, wash his feet?" But then the king remembered his daughter. And as Kirti Kumara played on his flute, the king massaged his shoulders, and he brought water from the river, and he washed the shepherd boy's feet. "Now, give me a rabbit." And gladly Kirti Kumara, he picked up one rabbit and gave it to the old man, who was truly the king. And the king carried the rabbit back to the palace and didn't notice that Kirti Kumara was following him. And when he got to the palace, he said, "My wife, Queen, Queen, look, I have a rabbit. Now he has only 99 rabbits. Our daughter will not marry him." And the queen looked at the rabbit and she was happy. But at that moment, Kirti Kumara, behind the king, began to play on his flute. Well, you know what happened. That rabbit jumped out of the king's hands and started hopping after Kirti Kumara. And now Kirti Kumara had 100 rabbits again. Well, the days passed and all was well. But now, nearly a month gone, a woman appeared. An old woman dressed in rags. "Young man," she said, "I have gold for you. Give me one of your rabbits." But Kirti Kumara looked at the old woman and he knew who she was. Queen. The queen. "Oh, certainly," he said. "You can have one of my rabbits, but first, you don't need to give me any gold. Please, could you just stitch my clothes and cut my hair?" "Oh, stitch his clothes and cut his hair," thought the queen. But then she remembered her daughter. And she took his clothes and she sewed them as he played for the rabbits. And she cut his hair until he looked smart. When she had finished, Kirti Kumara gave her a rabbit. And she carried the rabbit away in a hurry back to the palace, but following her was Kirti Kumara. Now the queen was not so foolish. She went into the palace and up to the king's room. "Husband, husband," and she locked the door. "Husband, see, I have a rabbit. Now Kirti Kumara only has 99. Our daughter will be safe." The king took the rabbit and he called out of the window, "Make a feast so we can celebrate." But at this moment, down under the window, Kirti Kumara played on his flute. And that rabbit, it jumped out of the window and down to where Kirti Kumara was and followed Kirti Kumara away from the palace back to the river. And once more, Kirti Kumara herded 100 rabbits. And a whole month had passed. Kirti Kumara had done it. And he took his pipe, his flute, and he played, and the 100 rabbits followed him to the palace. And there in the palace were the king and the queen and the beautiful princess and many more important people, advisors and nobles. Said the king, "And what do you want?" "I will marry your daughter now. I herded 100 rabbits for 1 month." And the queen said, "You did as our daughter said you must. But now you must do what we say. We will let you marry our daughter if you can fill 3 bags full of words." What? Well, 3 bags, big bags, were brought to Kirti Kumara. How could he fill 3 bags full of words? Now, this is not the end of the story, but I'd like you to imagine, how do you think Kirti Kumara can fill 3 bags full of words? Do you understand?
Yes.
Telling the story to back
You think you'll tell the story into the bag?
into the back.
But the words are...
Yeah.
How can you fill the bag with words?
Put in the letters. Many letters maybe from princess.
Okay, so like love letters. You could fill the bag with letters. Any other ideas? How can you fill a bag full of words? Listen, I will tell you. Kitikumara, he thought for a moment, and then he had an idea. He took the first bag and started to tell a story. I tell you this story, and this story is true. Can you say that? I tell you this story, and this story is true. There was once a poor shepherd boy, and he wanted to marry a beautiful princess. One day, her father, the king, came to the shepherd boy, and the king, he massaged his shoulders and he washed his feet. Stop, said the king. Stop. The bag is full. The bag is full. And he took the bag and he tied the end of the bag. And all of the people, all of the important people said, really? The king? He washed the shepherd boy's feet? He massaged the boy's shoulders? Can it be true? And Kitikumara, he took the second bag. And you know what he said? I tell you, everybody, I tell you this story, and this story is true. There was once a beautiful princess, and she had a powerful mother, the queen of the land. And one day the queen came to a poor shepherd boy who wanted to marry her daughter. And she stitched his clothes and cut his hair. Enough, said the queen, enough! The bag is full. The bag is full. And she took the bag and she tied the end. And the people in the palace thought, can it be true that the queen stitched that poor man's clothes and cut his hair? And Kitikumara, he picked up the third bag. He said, I'll tell you a tale, and this tale is true. Once upon a time there was a poor shepherd boy, but he was clever and he could play on his flute, and he had sheep. And one day he came to the palace of a king and a queen with their beautiful daughter. And he said he could play and herd 100 rabbits for 1 month. And he told the story, and how he played for the princess, and how they fell in love, and how he played for a whole month, and everybody listened. Nobody stopped him. And at the end of the story, he said, and the young shepherd boy and the princess were married. And the king and the queen, they looked at him and they said, Kitikumara, you are too clever. You are a good storyteller.
Yeah.
And you are a fine musician. Marry our daughter with all of our blessings. And so it was. Kitikumara married the beautiful princess. Guests were invited from far and wide. And they lived the rest of their lives in peace and plenty and happiness. And often Kitikumara played on his flute.